Hello, welcome back to video 5 on setting up your OneNote notebook. You'll notice that while the last video was uploading, I went ahead and started setting up this page, the instructions page. I made the page rather last video, and now you can see that I've dropped some information in here. I've started adding the videos, and doing this is very simple. This is true for any page. You will just drop the link in or just start typing depending on what you want to do. So that's what we'll look at today. And I'm going to set up all of my pages. This one is just instructions, so it lives here. But most of the pages I'm going to set up for the students are going to live here in this content library because this is like a library. I'm going to set everything up here and then the kids can just pull directly from it. They cannot make changes to this section though, only you can, which keeps them from, creating mayhem in their passing. So the first section I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and we'll set up a sample section, and I'm going to call this I'm going to call it up here, my independent reading, because that is a section that we actually use this year. And within the section, so this is now a new section, and over here I have my pages. So what I'm looking at here is my very first page, and I will just call this my reading log, because most of us in the world of English use some form of reading log. And then I am a big fan of tables. It keeps things very organized. So to add a table, you just go to Insert and then Table, and then maybe I'll want the title, maybe the genre, the date, and I could put that here, and I could just label these. These will be title, and this might be the genre of the book, and this would be the date. Or you might rearrange those. Maybe it would make more sense for the date to go first, and then the title, and then the genre. But what have you, you understand how this works. And then I can start playing with it a little bit on the page to make it, look a little nicer. Like genre, title needs to be big, date just needs to be a little bit bigger. Because I found that if you make it look nice, then the kids respond a little bit better. It makes me feel better anyway. Very psychological, I guess, in that way. So here's my little table. And so I might add a few more. If you highlight and then you right click table, you can insert more rows below. And so now I have this nice table and it's ready to go. Is it fancy? Well, no. And if I wanted to get clever, I could add different pictures or images. I could put more things on the page, but I find by just putting one or two things on a page at a time, especially for something like this that's almost administrative, it helps. So now in my independent reading tab, in 30 seconds or however long that was, I have made a reading log page. There's no glue involved. It's done perfect. So now I add another page. And so my next page might be something like my reading rate, spelled correctly. And then I could put something here about my reading rate. Now let's say that I'm like, these white pages, they're nice and all, but they're not as interesting as perhaps they could be. Well, you have the choice up here under Insert to add page templates. And I just clicked on the bottom. And so then you can add templates, and they have different ones. They have academic templates. These are pretty complex, though. I found that they're a little bit more complex than I like to use in my class. I like to use the blank templates, and they just have a bunch of different colors and patterns. There's fewer of these now than there used to be. Maybe they rearranged. Yeah, here it goes. So they rearranged some of them into decorative. So, I'm like, oh, I want something interesting. I wear glasses. Let's do glasses. And so now, look, I have a pretty page, and it has glasses at the top. So this new page might be for my vocabulary. And then I can add another template, and it'll make a new page. And now this one is called whatever. So if I just want to make it look pretty, because we like pretty things, I could make this my reading in progress questions, or my excerpts, or terrific things I found when reading, or any of these different types of pages that we like to use in your paper notebooks, you can easily make in these notebooks as well. And so over here it is making all of these pages, which later I'll show you how to push this all out to the kids. But what I like to do is I like to create everything in the content library first, basically build a full notebook with all kinds of templates and things in it before I send it out to the kids. So now I'm heading over to the content library of this year's notebook that I use. And here's my independent reading tab. Look, here's the chart with my reading list in progress that we started the year with. Here were some critical reading pieces that I had the kids do, a whole collection of questions that I designed. In fact, if I'm like, oh, you know what, I want to use this, but I sure don't want to have to recreate all of this. This is huge. Well, the good news is I can just right click on it. I can copy it. I go back over here, over to my other page, content library. Here's my independent reading. I can paste that guy right there. Boom. Now he's here, including the pretty little template at the top. And he's now in there. And I'm like, oh, wait, I don't need this one anymore. Well, that's easy enough. I'll just delete him. So it's easy, easy, easy to navigate in here. So I'll go back over to English 4. And so now let's say, you know what? Next year, I'm planning my notebook. I really want to use some of these same prompts that I used this year, or maybe articles and annotations. This one is huge. My articles and annotations tab, I have all kinds of scanned in articles that I have been using, and I can show you how to print these articles into. But these are the questions that go with the Instagram one. So here's the Instagram article. And then I have the questions that went with it. I don't want to recreate all this stuff. Well, the good news is it's not just one thing that I can move or copy. I can copy this stuff too. So I can move or copy. And I have a choice now. These are all my students, pardon me. Down here in the Grow 360 teacher example, I'll just go to the content library and I'll just copy that over there. And so now, if I go back over to Grow 360, boom, there it is, right there. And so I can just go through and clean it up rather than having to recreate this. So from year to year, a lot of my stuff just gets moved and improved, right? Because if I were to go back and show you the notebook from 3 or 4 years ago, it does not look nearly as comprehensive as this one now. But I would build out the content library. And once the content library is created with all these pages and skills and whatnot, then I would be ready to push it out to students. Now, one thing I did notice with the articles is earlier I was printing them, and it's a choice when you print that you can print to OneNote if you haven't noticed that before. But what I found with the later articles is I started just copying and pasting them in and cleaning it up so that I still had access to the links, because when you print you don't have access to the links, and a lot of times that lends to credibility and whatnot, or this one linked to an actual video. And then I started changing the style of questions as well because we were looking at different things. But there are a couple ways you can put these articles in there. All right, and I'll go ahead and end this video now because it's already over 7 minutes, but I think you've got the idea about how to create the pages, how to add content to the pages. You can add pictures the same way. Everything just copy and paste in here. Additionally, if you choose to, there are some options you can record audio. So if you wanted to have the kids, like for example, I say I end the video, haha, jokes. If I go back to units and menus, I have a lot of units, like this is the op-ed one, where there are instructions for step 1, step 2. I could have the choice. I could go in and I could actually record video or audio right here on this page if I chose to, where the kids could click on it and hear me explain each section. So if you were doing blended learning, or you were looking at something that you wanted the kids to be a little bit more independent, not have to explain every section. In fact, that may be what I do next year. Maybe that's where I'll, move and improve for next year, is start adding, a little bit more audio and visual here. You can also link videos, screen clippings. They're awesome. I love screen clippings. If you're in math, there's many equations and symbols I don't have to use, but I'm sure you might. File printout, that would be the type of things you could add here. All right, now I really will end it, but first I'll just go ahead and move this whole section over. So while this one is processing, I'll finish setting up the content library of our new Grow 360 notebook.